Final hour for the week. Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Look at this guy. Right out of the gate. The O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill. He's back in Toronto. I love it, man. It sucks that you're back. It would be better if you were still in Ottawa. But what do you make of it, man? We haven't seen you in a while. We haven't heard from you. We were hoping you'd still be there all weekend, but Canada's out, and that's that.
It's one of the bizarre things about my schedule for the tournament. It's like I only do Canada games, and then it's like the game's over, and you're like, I'm going home. Like, it's not like, hey, shoot me a note in the morning to Bobby Mack. It's a handshake, and I'll see you whenever I see you. Like, there's some finality to it where it's like, and this is, I think I've been doing it for 8 or 9 years, and this is the third time where it's like quarterfinals, and it's like one time was in Vancouver. I had to make flight arrangements. I said to my wife, I'm like, we have to get out of here.
Right.
Yeah, like it's like there's no sense in sticking around, or we just, I don't know. It's kind of the weird thing about the tournament. But the tournament as a whole, it was bizarre, Hayes. I mean, it started out like game 1, 4-0 over the Finns, and it's like, we're rocking here. This is a typical Canadian team, and they're going to dominate. And then the Latvia game happened, and it's like, all of a sudden, something happened. Some switch went off, and they could not score goals. Like, the offense was stymied. And it's not like it was actually close either. You know what I mean? It's not like you could say, oh, man, these goalies were outrageous. It's like they could not score goals. And then you factor in the stupid penalties on top of it and all the time they spent in the penalty box, and at the end of the day, you get really a bizarre.
That was crazy, man.
Yeah,
it
is.
Crazy.
It's a crazy thing. It's like, of all the Canadian teams, it's like, I mean, the time I left in the quarterfinals in Vancouver, it was like a good team, and it's almost like a coin flip. Anything could happen. And there was kind of a crazy goal in overtime, and you're like, oh, man, like, that team might have got cheated out of a gold medal. With this team here, I'm like, they didn't get cheated out of much.
That was what was so unique for me was, you know, I'm not as connected as you are. You're there, you're covering it, you're around people. But I had the most unique experience yesterday. We were talking about it on the show. I'm like, I'm not sure they're going to win in the quarters. You know, I've been in a gold medal match where I'm like, I think the Americans will get them, or Russia's better, or whatever. I wasn't surprised at all that they lost.
How about this one, Hayes? I asked some people in the hockey community at the hotel. I was like, let me ask you something. If Canada loses, I go home. If you were me, would you pack your truck up and go to the rink?
Did you do that?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
You driving in with your trunk packed and seeing Dave Cameron on the way in.
Yes.
Would have been a wild
and I've got
scenario.
A flag on it that says one way to Etobicoke. Don't touch.
Keep the motor running.
Yeah. No, I made a big sticker, O-Dog's truck, don't touch, heading to Toronto after. And Team Canada walked by it. They would kick that car in.
Yeah, that would have been, but it was a reasonable question in hindsight.
It was. And you'd be surprised how many people, like, just hockey people, scouts, GMs are like, yeah, you could probably pack that thing up and head to the game.
No, it was crazy, man. Jonas, you were talking about it yesterday. Yeah. We're like, I don't know if they're going to win tonight. Well, I'm not surprised that they didn't win.
Jeff, I was telling Bryan at the start of the show, I was watching you in the pregame, and you were like, the most important first goal ever. And then I flipped over to the Leaf game, came back, and it was 1-0. I was like, oh my God, Jeff was right.
Dude,
what are you thinking when that happens?
It's got to come up with some things and items to talk about in pregame, and I'm like, the way these guys are going offensively, if they don't score the first goal and kind of change the momentum of things and get feeling good about themselves, it's probably curtains. Mm-hmm. And then when Czechia puts up a 3-spot, you're like, there's just no way in hell. And then it seems like they flipped the switch. They got the crowd going, and they tied it up, and I'm like, it wouldn't shock. I said to myself, it wouldn't shock me if these guys go on a run now and win the gold medal. And sure as you know what, they get that penalty called against them, and Czechia scores on that power play. I mean, every year we talk about the importance of special teams in this tournament, and that power play was something else. I think they felt they had it solved putting the London guys together, but the power play was useless, and the penalty kill wasn't that far off. And they couldn't kill off that penalty, and Czechia won the hockey game.
Yeah.
It was a crazy game. Like, you talk about, like, low event or high event games, like that game, like I'm exhausted today, not because I had to drive home, because it seems like you were so up and down and you're like, they're back in it and they're going to go far, and then there's a penalty and they score, and it just all of a sudden ends abruptly. But I don't know, the blame game's cooking around today, guys, and whenever this team wins a gold medal, the first thing I do is focus on the players. This guy was awesome, this line was awesome, this D pairing was awesome. So when they lose, I find it a little bit crazy to skip the players and then just hunt for other things, because everyone's like the coach, and the coach did some weird stuff. It's like not changing the lines around, and you can talk about the personnel, and there wasn't game breakers, and it didn't work. But for myself and my own analysis, when they win, I talk about players, how great they were, how good the goalie was, Bedard, the third line, they were so dominant. And then when it's a loss, people are asking me to just bypass the players completely and go to the coach and go to the people that selected the team. And I just don't think that's right.
Yeah.
They're young kids, and they went on the ice and they didn't play well enough, and that's the end of the story.
I think that's fair. I think that's accurate. I think that's reasonable.
Know what
I do think there's blame that can go around. You know, I didn't love the way Dave Cameron handled really the whole
I
tournament.
don't think anybody did.
No, I didn't like his. You know, I had no regrets. We did everything we could. You know, I didn't love that type of messaging. I said, from a player perspective, the players are heartbroken. I think the coaches and management are embarrassed. Right? It's because Hockey Canada, you lose back-to-back years in quarterfinals against Czechia. Credit to Czechia. They played really well back-to-back years, and they earned it last night. They played really well last night, and they came out to play. But I think you're heartbroken if you're a player. You're embarrassed if you're a coach or associated with Hockey Canada. Yet you're right. I mean, the players, listen, these are all, going to be future NHL players. And they're all, like, really good, talented superstars in their respective club teams, and collectively, they just never looked dangerous. They never looked like a team that was going to really bring much to the table. The players have to own that.
Oh, they do. And
For
if
sure.
you look at how the Americans play and how they were like a unit out there, and they created offense, and they were big and they were fat. The Americans, as sad as it is to say this, the American team looked like a typical Canadian team, where it was like line after line was just zipping it around, and they were big and strong and fast and dominant. And that's what I was watching. I watched that American team, and I'm like, there's no way in hell that they don't win the gold medal this year. No way. And when they played Canada, it was kind of men against boys, where it was like this. I mean, as far as like scoring and offense, and I don't know what they were trying to accomplish offensively. Like there was time and time again where it was like pull up, cross pass, intercepted, other way, like cycle it in behind the net, and nobody gets it. And it's like, what the hell are these guys? These guys dominate when they go back to their club teams, and they can't even get a forecheck going. And it was almost like they didn't want to be physical, and they wanted to say, we'll go skill against skill. And they got a rude awakening that in the hockey world nowadays, it's not Canada just owns the skill game now.
No.
Skill against skill. They didn't find a separator. And I always believe, and a few of my panel members didn't necessarily agree with this, but like big hits and physicality, it's like that's one of the separators for Canada. They kind of
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Like Duffy said it to me. He's like, that's not really the case anymore. And I'm like, okay, they keep doing what they're doing then.
But why would we accept that? That's what I don't get. It's almost like Hockey Canada has accepted that if you want to make it skill on skill, you are evening the playing field.
No, and dude, not just that. As soon as they would crush someone in the corner, the idea of getting the crowd in the game, it's like a Canadian hockey fan that's gooning a drink.
Yes.
He loves that.
Yep.
And it's the two things. It creates momentum, and it also helps a forecheck. But I guess some people don't want to see it, and they don't think it's effective. I don't know. Maybe I'm a dinosaur for thinking it because it was nonsense.
Who plays? Do people play that way, really?
What do you think the Florida Panthers did last year to win the Stanley Cup? They went out and figure skated?
That's right.
Think about
But that's not the same as picking like a national team, is it?
Dude, give me a break. It's the same kind of game. It's the same size rink. What are we talking about here?
Or you at least.
I guess I'm just saying, like, how do
players to do it?
How do you pick players?
Well, I mean, again, generally, it's the players have that capability of also doing that. Like
Jonas,
you have the
I've
skill.
seen it a bunch of other years doing this tournament. The Canadian teams, it would be a massive part of their skill set was making the other team say, "Oh my God, I got to go back into the corner again." Those guys are just going to destroy me. Wasn't even close to that this year.
What player like comes to mind in past years?
Historically?
Yeah, like who?
Oh, well, I can give you the number one, and this is an extreme example, but go watch Eric Lindros at this tournament. Right. I know that's extreme, but there's a guy who's the most skilled, but he also said, I'm going to kill people when I get out here. Dion Phaneuf, Jordan Tutu,
but like, the game,
Marcus Foligno.
You're talking about guys from way long ago, like
Not
15,
wrong.
20 years ago.
In Halifax 2 years ago, Connor Bedard, whenever he went in the corner, said, I'm going to squash that guy.
Fair.
And there's another guy, and he's 5'9".
Right.
Yeah.
It's a team mentality. It's like I think that needs to be reestablished where the skill is still going to be prominent. It's not it's not meat and potatoes for the whole tournament, but I think it's even more prevalent against the inferior teams, especially on Canadian soil. Saucer passes through the neutral zone are not going to get the crowd freaking out. A heavy, like forceful forecheck early in a game, that's going to get the crowd electric.
Dude,
and get on your
like
side.
Latvia should be crawling out of the corner and saying, we just...
And if you're going to take the penalties, that's when you do it. Boarding because you destroyed someone.
Yes.
And then it's like, all right, give me my 2 minutes. You know?
These penalties that these guys were taking, throwing a goalie stick in the corner, which was absolutely insane. Boarding a guy right in front of your bench, insane.
Scrums, like stupid punches in front
like
of a
it was
a ref.
February in London. It was like, what are we doing here? It was goofy.
Silly.
It was a really weird look, man.
Yeah, it's too bad because now you got to wait another year, and the expectations aren't going to change.
No.
Next year, it's like you got to go figure this out.
Hayes, the expectations are going to change next year because it's going to be 2 years in a row, 5th place, pumped in the quarterfinals. You don't think they're going to have the expectation of we better fix this and do something next year
exactly.
in
That's what I'm
Minnesota?
saying. They better. The expectations are gold every single year that they play. Every single year, and it's even more highlighted now. And if the Americans do win this, that'll be back-to-back for them. And now they're going home next year in Minnesota. I mean, why would you expect the juggernaut that is the American program to slow down? It's likely not going to. Like, they're just going to keep chugging and chugging and chugging. And, we'll see how Hockey Canada handles it. But it sucks. I think it's really disappointing. It's a great tournament. Crowd showed up. Ottawa's a great town for it.
It was the best of all the times that I've gone on site. It was the best crowd I've been a part of in Ottawa.
Wow.
And they were ready to blow the top off. Like, there's been some unbelievable crowds in Edmonton, in Halifax, in Vancouver. Amazing hockey fans across the board. I thought the Ottawa crowd was the best of all of them that I've ever been to. And I would go the game before. That's when I would show up to the rink because there was a game and then the Canada game. And I would just look at the packed building and I was like, these people are ready to blow the roof off of this place. And Canada's not even playing yet. 2 different countries. And they never got a chance. They never got a chance to go nuts. They really didn't. They were like, okay, there's no goals. And then there's a loss to Latvia. And they're walking out of the rink like, what is going on here? Crazy stuff.
Well, Jeff, if Hockey Canada came to you and they said, Jeff, like, what should we do? What would you tell them?
I'd say you can hire me, but you're going to have to pay me a hell of a lot of money to get me out of this desk right here.
They should give it a shot.
And what would you do?
A little blank.
What would I do?
Page.
It's very simple. It just seems like there's these weird agendas where it's like people have these idea. Well, here's a scenario that I found pretty goofy. The kid that Ottawa drafted, you're telling me you couldn't even have invited him to camp? Like, maybe you had this thing where he was this one-way player or whatever. You're telling me you couldn't even have brought him to Ottawa? Like, at least for the PR story for camp, it was like, the kid's a stud. He got drafted by... Let him go to camp, and if you don't think he can play after that, then cut him. I guarantee you probably would have looked at him and said, that guy's pretty good. Maybe he can help our team. There just was no game-breaking out there. And it seemed like someone had this idea of, like, we're going to do this instead of bring the best players there. And we've seen in years past where guys like Rick Nash and Joe Thornton and John
Corey
Tavares,
Perry,
those are you're now a depth guy. I did it at the World Juniors. I was the leading scorer of the Guelph Storm, and my assignment was, you're the fourth-line right winger for Team Canada. You're a cheerleader and a plumber. Go out there and muck and grind and try to score a goal here and there, which I did. Our line contributed offensively, but that's the way it is. That team that went over to Sochi, they were the best players in Canada, best players in the game, and they were asked to play a certain way. And when it was time, if they needed 4 goals, those guys would go out and find 4 goals. If it was 3, they found 3. I don't know. It's you got to bring the best players, man.
Yeah. You know what I was disappointed in? I had never seen that video of you and Todd Harvey with your helmet on.
Dude, it's
that
insane.
is one of the funniest videos I've ever seen in my life.
The thing that really you need to look at is when the whole team kind of gathers and catches up to us, I'm the only guy with my bucket on.
Why did you keep your helmet on? I know it's been 30 years. It's
one of those things. Our buddy Steve Coolius, I have a weird thing with it. I get out after practice in Carolina, and the PR person says, you got to go sit down in there and do an interview with Coolius. You can find it online probably somewhere. And I wore my bucket sitting down for the whole interview with Coolius. And I remember somebody sent me the clip because Coolius came back from break and he had a helmet on at the desk.
That's awesome.
So I don't know. It's the greatest moment of my hockey life. Like, you win the gold medal in Canada and you're skating around and I've got the bubble cage on in a Cooper helmet. I'm like, it's insane.
Someone stopped me the other day I was in a rink. I think it was another dad of one of the players on my kids' team, and he's like, I just got to say, that video of with the helmet is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I'd never seen it before.
Dude,
I'd never
insane.
seen it. That's got to be an annual thing. You and Duthie breaking that down.
I know, but Duthie brought it to my attention a couple years ago because you don't really. You're just like, hey, that's us winning, and me and Harv. And by the way, Harv is so trying to steal my thunder. Like, I got that flag from a fan behind the bench, and all of a sudden his grubby mitts are all over it, trying to rip it out of my hands, and I'm like, you're the captain, but you're not taking this flag.
Yeah, that's a 2-man job.
But
man.
Duthie brought it to my attention a couple years ago. He's like, why didn't you take your helmet off for the laps? Like, the whole team's got no bucket. And I have my bucket on. It's insane.
It's such a great video. It's such a good video.
I haven't seen it.
You got to find it. We'll find it. We'll post it.
We'll fire it up on Monday.
Yeah, we got a full breakdown because Noodles will like it too. Noodles will have a great appreciation for it.
Yeah.
A celebration in Red Deer, Canada flag.
Yeah.
Every other teammate with the helmet and gloves off, and O's got his helmet still on.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
ridiculous.
It's amazing. Well, you've been off for a while, but you see this Austin Matthews story, like people buzzing out there in the NHL that this guy, still out, not playing.
I got to be honest with you, not one. That World Junior tournament's about the World Juniors.
Really? I appreciate that. I like
Ottawa
that.
Hotel. I don't even think you couldn't even get the Leaf games.
That's great.
But it's a perfect opportunity for you guys to fill me in. I read he had a quote with you, Jonas, saying, I don't think this is going to be better, so we're just going to have to play it by ear, or what the hell's the scoop?
Basically, I mean,
he kind of said, like, he was asked, like, do you think this is something you'll get over this season? He said, I don't know. I hope so, but I don't know. Things happen in a game that you can't control, et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't like...
basically, he's going out on the ice, and if there's a cross-check, he misses 2 weeks.
That's what's concerning, man.
I mean, sort of, but it's also like he might
that's what we just saw. I mean, he played a game in Buffalo, and a guy gave him a cross-check in front of the net, kind of like... It was almost standard defenseman protocol where it's like you got a guy in front of the net, you're going to cross-check them, and what? He's missed 2 weeks?
But Jeff, like you would have said before that, like he still doesn't look like himself, right? Like he takes those 3.5 weeks off. It's like hopefully this helps. He goes to Germany. He comes back and he kind of looks like a little teeny bit better, and then it just... But not really.
No, he has not looked like 100% Matthews all year. But that's the irony of this, is that he's not going to tell anyone what's going on. Yet you can actually look at a video and say, that guy buried you in the back, and now you're not playing.
Yeah.
And I think most people are going to put 2 and 2 together. Like, we're not idiots here. It's like, what are you holding back?
Brian.
The whole league
that's the
knows.
concern.
Exactly.
And that's the concern. It's, how are you going to well, there's three things. How are you going to continue to play the rest of this, like the regular season? I would definitely think the Leafs have said, I don't know what you think you're doing for this Olympic break or Four Nations break, but maybe not the best idea you go into that.
Yeah.
And how is he going to play in a playoff series if one cross-check takes him out for 10 days?
It's concerning, man.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's concerning. Like, and you can kind of see it and hear that he's a little bit concerned about it himself. I mean, it's a big year. He's the captain of the team. I mean, it's not year 9. They have the history that they have.
Well, and it just must be such a like, you probably dealt with this. It must be so frustrating when, like, you can't play up to the capability you know you have just because, like, your body is just not cooperating and nothing you're doing off the ice treatment-wise is helping to the point where you're better. Like, that just must
got to be a mental grind, man.
Brutal.
Mental grind.
Especially with the doctors. Like, if you're talking about a Mark Lindsay type guy or a Mike Prebag or these guys like all the Gary Roberts and Matt Nickel people, like, if these guys can't get you up and cooking and 100%, you remember that crazy kind of video of McDavid with his knee where he took that chance and did that therapy with Mark Lindsay, and it was like, it was outside the box thinking, and the guy came back better than ever. Like, it's crazy that this riddle can't be solved in somewhat of a short-term basis where it's like, hey, in 3 weeks we can get you back to 100%.
Mm-hmm. And he got hurt in camp, man.
So then what are we talking about? Does this need surgery? Like, what does it take to get this to 100%?
From everything I understand, it's not that kind of thing, like where surgery will fix it. So I don't know what that...
Which, again, glass half empty is you're scared both ways. Because you start messing around with surgeries, you know, there's a lot of athletes where it's like you can't get back there. And I don't want to get there with him. I'm not going to make a projection on what the rest of his career is going to look like. But it's scary both ways. You can't fix it if you can't find it. You know, like, look at Thatcher Demko. He left the game again last night. Like, Demko's... Now, again, they're going to reevaluate. They don't know exactly what it is. There's a ton of concern.
Don't get me started on these goalies.
Tons of concern, man.
These goalies are...
Tons of concern.
Yeah.
You caught any Rolf out at Kapalua yet, or what?
Dude, Rolf was doing a diatribe today of how the course got started and how he got his car stuck up on the hill when he was going through the site survey.
Dude, he was talking about the 8th green last night.
He is so horny right now. If they pan down his trousers, he's so excited. Like, he was talking to the mayor on the first tee today, and they both had the flowers on. He loves being out there. It's this tournament, man.
It's amazing. I thought he was crying last night. He was talking about the elevated green on 8 and what it overlooks. I swear he was tearing up, and you got to see it. Yesterday, Tony Finau hit a wedge. You see him chisel a wedge from the top tier. You got to find it. That's a really cool shot.
On the green, right?
Yeah, it was on the green. It was actually a brilliant shot. And immediately Hicks is like, Rolf, what do you like? It just everything is about Mark Rolfing this whole week. You'd appreciate it, Jonas, even though you're not a golf guy. This guy, he's been living in Kapalua. He's worked at Kapalua for like 30 years.
Dude, he was saying yesterday, he's
crazy.
Like, when we built this place, we just put the clubhouse there, and then we started mapping out the holes from the clubhouse, guys. He loves it.
He loves it. And Corey Connors is looking good, man. I haven't checked this afternoon, but he's looking good. He's in the hunt, and we'll see what comes of it. All right, man. Well, good to have you back, and we'll catch you on Monday. And
get the helmet video ready for Monday. We'll do a full breakdown of how stupid it is.
You got to see this, Jonas.
I'm going to watch it in the break.
Full breakdown.
Then I look forward to the explanation.
Yeah, we will. The noodles will be included. It's going to be a good one on Monday.
Watch that greasy pig Harv trying to steal the flag.
He does get in there, right?
He can't wait to get that thing out of my hands.
All right, buddy. Catch you Monday.
See you, boys.
There he is, the O-Dog Jeff O'Neill. Back in the fold. Back at it on Monday here on OverDrive. Best bet still to come later in the hour. Little role play, you and I, Jonas. We love it. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
You can never ask me to stop drinking. Do you understand?
I do. I really do.
All right, so we got a little role play level of concern here, Jonas, and it's more projecting on 2025, right? We're kind of playing off. We're into the new year. You can still say Happy New Year. right? Like, do you have a limit
I think
on
there
that?
was a curb your enthusiasm about that, wasn't there? Where after like 2 days, it's no go.
Yeah, I thought he said maybe 3. Although, why does Larry David get to make that call?
After you do it a couple times, you're like, okay, it's enough.
Yeah. He does.
Yeah.
Larry had, I think, a better point in that. He's like, why does everything have to be happy? Like, forget the statute of limitations on when it comes to that. Why is everything happy? Happy New Year. Happy this. Happy that. Why do we all have to be so happy? It brings up a good point on that. All right, so we don't have to throw to anything. We'll put a little different spin on this. It can be no concern, moderately concerned, extremely concerned. Okay? I'm going to start this off. I'm playing the role of the Canadian Cup drought, just 30-plus years now.
Okay.
What is my level of concern that the streak will continue this spring? Moderately concerned, I think, is reasonable.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have 3 really good tickets here.
Mm-hmm.
Winnipeg, Edmonton, Toronto. Like, all 3 teams are going to get there. They're good teams. I think they're going to have really good regular seasons, presuming health. They're going to get into the playoffs. Obviously, the Leafs have to prove who they are. Winnipeg, Connor Hellebuck in the playoffs has to prove who he is and who they are. But I think they're really good teams. I think they've proven that. I think that gives you a real shot. 3 of the 16. Vancouver is terrifying me right now. Like, with what's going on with them, I'm not even sure they're going to make the playoffs. But if they do, Demko's, if he's not playing, if he's not available, if he's injured, I'm not sure they're a legitimate threat. If Calgary gets in, which I don't think they will, don't think they're a threat to win it. Ottawa, the same thing. They could get in. They're not going to win a Stanley Cup. 3 tickets. Moderately concerned that the streak will continue. I mean, the odds are, I guess, against Canada, but at some point, something's going to break their way.
Well,
And they were in Game 7 of a Cup final last year.
and all 3 teams are still really good.
That's it.
Which of those teams do you feel best about?
I'm still
As
going to
far as
say
the
Edmonton.
cup? Yeah.
I'm going to say Edmonton, but like Skinner scares me. Stuart Skinner scares me. The way they defend scares me at times.
Yeah, but like those 2, you know they're just going to...
And they elevate. That's the
it.
difference between their stars in Edmonton and the stars in Toronto, the stars in Winnipeg. Hellebuck's playoffs the last couple of years have been abysmal. His stats have been really bad.
Yeah.
Their best players have not elevated when they're supposed to. We know the Leafs' history. They play fine, but then when it's time to really make something happen, Game 6, Game 7, they go into a shell or they just don't do enough. I know McDavid and Draisaitl are going to be phenomenal in those games.
Well, and remember Hyman was outstanding.
Absolutely. And Bouchard was great.
Yeah.
Like, Bouchard immediately established himself as a playoff performing defenseman.
Well, and they got like, I know we disagree about this, but like they got contributions along the way. Like Adam Henrique, I remember, scored like I think it was an OT winner at some point. Connor Brown scored. Like
That line got better.
Janmark,
got
Brown,
better.
Henrique
Yes.
was a good line for them. They got contributions from different places, but you're right. The goaltending is
going to be a big part of it, right? And who you play against. Like, they've played LA the last couple of years. LA's a good team, not a great team. Edmonton was favored. They took advantage of that. You know, again, not making excuses, but I think just facing reality. The Leafs, every year when they play in the playoffs, they have a tough opponent. Like, immediately, you're playing a really tough team.
Okay.
At some point, you should beat them.
You do need to beat them.
You
Yeah.
kind of have to.
Typically, to win a cup, you got to beat
some good teams.
good teams.
Yes,
But okay.
you do. All right, Jonas, you're playing the role of Team USA. This has been a theme all week. What is your level of concern? Austin Matthews will not be available for the Four Nations face-off.
Moderately concerned.
Moderately concerned.
Because I know that this has been going on for 3 months. I know from him that it hasn't gotten better to the point where it's in the rearview mirror and he feels like it's going to be gone the rest of the year. And I know how much playoff pressure the team is facing. I know how much pressure he's facing as the captain now. Like, that just adds a teeny little layer to this whole thing. I would be concerned because obviously I would think he would be the captain. He's going to be he would be the best player on that team if he's at 100%. And now you just don't know if you're going to have him.
Shouldn't that be extreme concern then?
I
Or
think,
do you think
once
they're
I get a
prepared
little
for it?
closer to, like, if it's 2 weeks out, I guess you could be extremely concerned. But it's just like there's still too much time. Like, it's another 5 weeks where he could come back in a week, start looking more like himself, and then maybe this all goes away.
Yeah, it's possible.
It just doesn't feel likely because we've been down that road twice before where he comes back, we think he's going to be okay, and he's still very good. He's just not Hart Trophy best player in the world.
That would be my concern, is that even if he does play, which Matthews are you going to get? Are you going to get the one we've seen all year with the Leafs? I think it would probably be elevated a bit based on intensity, but everyone's intensity is higher. And there's no freebies. You're playing Sweden and Canada and Finland.
Yeah, but the difference is like you have just a team of stars.
You're insulated for sure. I think if anything, though, USA, they may not be extremely concerned because they're probably bracing for it and probably have been for a while. And they like the rest of their team.
Yeah, but the problem
goalies
is
are great. Defense is great.
Even if you were to replace him, like that player.
You're not going to replace him.
No, but I mean, you're like, right. Like, let's say you took his place on the roster. He says he's not going to play. The player you're getting is not him.
No.
Even at 75.
No, you're getting the 15th best forward.
Right.
Right? Like
Who probably doesn't play.
Who probably won't even play anyway.
Yeah.
All right, I'm playing the role of the Blue Jays season record in 2025. It is my level of concern that I will not sniff 500 all season. It's extremely concerning right now.
Extremely concerning.
It's extremely concerning. Charlie Morton signed with the Baltimore Orioles this afternoon. 1 year, $15 million. Like he's had a.
I like Charlie.
He's
Morton.
just always around. He always signs a
Always
1 year
good.
deal. He makes $15 million every year.
Yeah, he's always eats innings.
Every single year.
Yeah.
Give me a 1 year deal, $15 million. I'm happy. And Baltimore said, "Fine, we'll take it." Like Corbin Burns left, they replaced him with Charlie Morton. Is it a downgrade? Yes, significantly. We'll find out. But Baltimore's now in the fold, right? They're going to lose Santander. We believe he's probably going to leave. But
they have like a million prospects.
But they have the number one prospect pool.
Yeah, didn't barely play
baseball.
last year. Yeah,
exactly. And that's another thing. You've got Holiday who's just coming. But the Jays, like I keep telling myself, they're going to do something, and they will literally do something at some point. They're going to sign a few guys. But with every passing day and every free agent going somewhere else, it becomes more and more clear, or at least it seems to be moving in a direction where it's going to be very similar to the offseason from a year ago.
Yeah, it's like here's Justin Turner.
Yeah, here's Kiner Falefa and Turner and Kiermaier and maybe an arm or two in the bullpen, and let's see what happens. And
Good luck.
If that happens, I just don't see how they're going to be even remotely competitive. They just don't have enough. I know internal improvement is a statement that gets goofed on, deservedly so. If Bo Bichette is healthy, that will improve them significantly. Mm-hmm. He had a disastrous season.
But where else is the internal improvement?
But that's the thing. George Springer's not getting better.
Exactly.
And even the arms, like Bassett's not going to get better. I'm not sure Gosman's going to get better.
No, had a down year.
Yeah. I mean,
Barrios going to have the same kind of year that he had last year?
I'm not sure he will.
Maybe not. Maybe he has the year he had before.
They haven't really addressed the bullpen. They brought in Garcia, but they still need to address more pieces. So, yeah, I'm extremely concerned until the Blue Jays prove otherwise. And even at this point, like let's say you sign Anthony Santander. Okay, that's a guy, switch hitter, hits a lot of home runs, improves you immediately. Mm-hmm. You've got to do more than that, though. Like once you've committed to him, you're like, that's going to be a pretty significant contract you're going to hand him. That means you're saying we want to win, right? They have to give up a draft pick to do that. Like,
well, and look at the division. Like, who are you supposed to be better than?
As of right now, Tampa, you might feel better than Tampa. Maybe the Sox. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Baltimore,
it sounds like Bregman
New
may
York,
end up going to Boston, although I don't know how that would work with Devers. But
I think they said Bregman would move to second, maybe.
Okay.
But
I don't know what Bregman has left in the tank.
Yeah.
The Santander scenario, it kind of giving me like Kendrys Morales flashbacks. Like remember in 2017 when they're like, we got to do something. We just ALCS back-to-back years. And switch hitter, Morales, same thing. He's not as good, not the same stats. But it just felt like they were desperate and they're like, we're just going to sign a guy. And then like a year later, they realized we got to turn this over. Like it's not good enough. Batista's got to go. Tulo's done. Donaldson's done. Martin's done. Gibby's out. It kind of feels very similar.
The vibes are bad.
The vibes are not good.
It feels so similar to last offseason.
Only worse because it was a worse season they're coming off of.
Yeah, right.
Like 2 years ago, they went to the playoffs.
Yeah, and had the embarrassing situation happen in the playoffs.
Right. Which did leave you with a sour taste in your mouth, but at least they won 89 games and made the playoffs.
Yeah.
This year, they were a disaster.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then there's like the whole contract situations like with Bichette and Guerrero where it adds even more uncertainty.
A lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
All right, Jonas, you're playing the role of the NBA.
Oh.
You're the NBA. What is your level of concern? 2025 will be LeBron James' final calendar season in the league.
No concern at all. He's still playing at too high a level that I don't think he's going to retire after this year. Like, he's still averaging, you look at his numbers, like, he's averaging like 25, 8, and 9. They're like still, the Lakers have been playing better lately. They're still around the playoff mix.
They're not that good.
They're not good. They're not winning a championship. He knows that. He basically referenced that the other day where he said they're not a championship caliber team, which is obvious. But this is not the year. I like, how many years do you think he still has left? I think it's like minimum. I haven't spent any time thinking, like 2 or 3. Like, I bet he probably wants Bronny to get a little better, and maybe next year, like, he's like the 12th man, and then maybe the year after that, he's like,
I think he got
man.
his Bronny thing. They played.
Done?
They came in together opening night. He got his picture,
then maybe
his
he
photo
leaves.
op.
Maybe he leaves the Lakers. I don't know.
I don't think he wants to leave L.A. Like, that's the thing. I don't think it's about championships anymore. I think ideally he'd win one, but he's not going to get flipped to Oklahoma City to help them win. He's bigger than that. Like, he's moved on. You know, like,
so you just think he just does this again 2 more years?
I would guess that's the option. If he wants to play, it's just in L.A., live in the L.A. lifestyle, being LeBron James as a Laker, and whatever happens, happens. I don't pick. Do you picture him going somewhere else?
I don't think anything is inconceivable with that. Like, maybe he
would control
tiresome.
it all, clearly. It's
and
not
like,
going to be some sweepstakes.
He just had some comments a couple weeks ago, maybe it was a week ago, where it was like he kind of left the door a little bit open. Like, I hope I retire as a Laker, but, like, you never know. Like,
I feel like
it would have to be like the perfect situation. Like, I don't know what that is. Like,
well, New York comes to mind.
Right.
The Knicks come to mind. I don't think he's going back to Cleveland. He's done that. He's been down that road. He's not going to do it. Again, he's not going to.
Cleveland's really good too. That'd be interesting.
It is. Golden State is a team that he's been connected to.
Yeah,
go and play with Steph.
They're in the same boat. They're just not contenders.
With
maybe
him,
you add
they could
him.
be.
Yeah, maybe.
That's the question. But although if you're the Lakers, why would you trade him to Golden State?
Well, his contract would just run out. I think he does like the 1+1.
But that's why, again, I don't trust him, because he's always passive aggressive with that. And I think a lot of it is directed at Lakers ownership. And prior to that, it was Cleveland, and then it was Miami, where it's always this idea that if you don't do what I want you to do, I'll leave you. And in large part, he's been worthy of that kind of leverage. And it worked, and it was, smart business for LeBron. But is it to a point now where the Lakers are like, what do you want us to do?
Well,
what are they going to do?
Have you been following this Jimmy Butler thing? It is.
Jimmy's 35. He said last night, effectively, I need out. Like, that's as close
days after Pat Riley said we are not trading Jimmy Butler this season.
Yeah. Well, because the reporting has been pretty substantial that he wants out. Yeah. And he's wanted out for a while.
Yes.
And yet, like, Jimmy's 35. His numbers the last couple of games haven't been great.
No, he's not shooting the ball.
Yeah. He's talking about not being happy, and he wants joy, and it can't happen in Miami. Do you think that's the guy the Lakers could possibly be targeting? I mean, again, he's 35.
They don't. I don't think they have anything really to trade.
That is a bit of a concern as well. And if you're Miami, what are they? 17 and 15. They're in the playoffs. They're 6th seed. Jimmy Butler's a great playoff performer.
But like your other players, he's old, he gets hurt. But he is a rock star in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
All right, Jonas. Let's get to one more here. You are playing the role, or I am playing the role of Aaron Rodgers. What is my level of concern that the NFL will ice me out in 2025, even if I want to play? Extremely concerned.
Yeah.
I'm extremely concerned. We've established this. We've talked about it the last couple of days. I think there's very few teams that would even contemplate the idea of bringing Aaron Rodgers in. He's over the age of 40. His numbers aren't great. He's a difficult guy to deal with and handle. He's going to want to be on his own program. He's going to want his own people. He's going to scramble. He's going to audible. He's going to do what he wants to do when he's on the field. He hasn't won anything in a long time. He won a Super Bowl 14 years ago. He's not a winner anymore. Like that's another thing that gets lost.
The MVPs are not that long ago.
I know that, but look what they did in the playoffs.
Achilles injuries.
Like, they didn't win.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they went to the championship game in 20. They got destroyed against the Niners.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Niners went into Lambeau when they were the 1 seed when he won the MVP. And again, Shanahan ran all over him. Like, he's not a winner anymore. That's another thing that doesn't really come up. You look at the stats, you look at the mojo. He's a compelling guy. He's a remarkably interesting person. But he doesn't win. So even if you're so desperate, or you're desperate because you want to win, he's not going to help you do that, in my opinion. And I just think there's a number of teams that'll say, I just don't want to put up with the circus that is Aaron Rodgers.
I think that's more it. The performance doesn't justify the circus. I mean, like,
and you'd have to pay him a fair amount of money.
I was just thinking, if you
Not
could
doing it
have
for free.
if you had your own Pat McAfee, like where you just got an athlete on every week, who would it be? Where he just comes on, he just talks about everything that's going on, doesn't really help him. It's not really clear why he's doing it.
The amazing thing is he really does get going and talks
About everything.
Yeah, he will. Like that's. I would say like Matthews or McDavid, but they're not going to do that.
That would be great. You could talk about how good the team is. I know you want to.
That'd be incredible. If Austin wants to come on every single week, the invitation's there. Just come on and talk. Talk about anything you want. Yeah. Like half the time they talk about the Jets, but the other half it's just about anything.
And then you should just stand up and get just do tank tops, do the whole bit.
If Matthews wants to come on weekly, I would do that.
Okay.
But I don't think it's going to. I'm not holding my breath on that. You don't think Austin's going to be willing to accept that invitation? I don't know. I'm sure there are guys in the NHL that would. Like Matthew Tkachuk comes to mind.
You know who would be good? Ryan Reeves.
Ryan Reeves is a really compelling guy, and he loves to talk. He's engaging. Reeves would be great. Like I'm assuming he's got media in his future, in some capacity.
100%.
You know,
he'll be good at it.
Yeah, I think he would be good at
Like
it. I think he'll do his own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he'll say whatever he wants to say. He can back it up, and yeah, Reeves would be a guy that would be really cool to talk to. All right, there you go. Role play level of concern looking ahead to 2025. Melanin Friday brought to you by Boston Pizza's new game day menu. Stop by your local BP for $7 touchdown pints, shareables for the whole crew, and weekly prizing up for grabs. Football game days are better at your local BP. We'll come back with our best bets looking ahead to Week 18 in the NFL. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. Melanin Fridays brought to you by Boston Pizza's new game day menus. Stop by your local BP for $7 touchdown pints, shareables for the whole crew, and weekly prizing up for grabs. Football game days are better at your local BP. I think my kids are at Boston Pizza right now. We got a tournament that we're playing in Scarborough.
Nice.
Whippy Wolves, shout out. They're 2-0 already. I missed the afternoon game. Playing great. Awesome to be around just hockey people, hockey parents, kids, tournaments, GTA. Canada, can't beat it. Cannot beat it, Jonas.
Are you a laid-back hockey dad?
Yeah. Yeah, just
Easy going?
easy going, sitting up there having a good time.
Have you ever yelled?
No,
Okay.
no, not yelling.
Not yet.
No, I said not yelling. I'm
Okay.
not yet. Maybe. I mean, at some point you never know. But no, not yelling. I mean, it's, U11, we're just kind of getting going here, having fun. But it's awesome. Everyone's having a good time. Everyone's having a good time. All right, best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. I got one play, my last chance, fading the Jets. Give me the points.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are a 1.5-point dog. I get it, Tua's not playing. They have to win to get in. They have to win to get in.
Is Skylar Thompson playing?
I believe that's going to be the case.
He was not good at all before.
Do you know how bad the Jets are, Jonas?
I know, but
I don't care
at
who they're
least-
playing against. If the Jets are favored, I'm fading them. That's what the pick is about. Not about Miami.
Miami does have something to play for. You're right. Okay.
It doesn't matter who's playing against the Jets. If the Jets are giving points,
You just take it?
you have to take it. And I got one more chance to do it. Week 18. I'm on the fish. I'm on the Dolphins. Today's best bets powered by FanDuel, the FanDuel Sportsbook app, the exclusive home of the OverDrive same-game parlay. Please play responsibly. 19+, physically located in Ontario. Hazenbro victorious this year. Hazenbro, just a phenomenal run. That's an objective view.
Just unbelievable.
Objective view.
In both
Everyone
meanings
sees
of the
it the
word.
same way.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
I can't believe it
Phenomenal.
happened, but
Spectacular. I go on and on and on. How great Hazenbro were. Al's brother's on a victorious cruise right now. He booked a cruise after we won last week. You know how many times that guy goes on a cruise?
it's unbelievable.
You know how uncomfortable I would be on a cruise that many times?
The most interesting things I learned this week were that Al's brother goes on lots of cruises, and Doogie wears multiple colognes at once.
Doogie claims he has like 25 different colognes.
Just mind-blowing.
And has like one cologne for the left side of his body, one for the right. You know how abnormal that behavior is?
I've never heard of it.
Like, I love Doogie, but that is just absolutely absurd. But I guess what I was trying to drive at was once we get through Week 18, it's go time next week.
Do the playoffs matter more? Because they technically should.
Shouldn't.
No.
I don't think so. I mean, listen, we won the playoffs last year. Now we won the regular season. We've won it all, Jonas. We intend on winning the playoffs again, and we are going to spice it up. Doogie is putting together a little bit of a different run, some different picks, different ways to rack up points, different point system. It's going to be very creative, very different. You got to tune in next week to find out how.
All right.
All right. The O-Dog, I think he'll be back. We saw him earlier this hour. Noodles will be back. Noodles, I think, is in St. Louis tonight. Ottawa lost in Dallas last night. They get the Blues tonight. But Noodles should be back in the fold next week. It's going to be fun. Doogie will be back. JP will be back. But great seeing the guys behind the scenes. Thank you, Jonas. Great seeing you as always. We appreciate you doing this. Jonas Siegel of The Athletic. We're out of here. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your weekends. We're back Monday at 4 p.m. We'll chat then.